Alright, so I'm gonna do this video. Oh, it's hiding here, but here we go. Alright, now this should work pretty good. So, yeah, and Patrick will just be in the background doing his thing. Alright, so, this is my first screencast. So I'm just gonna more or less read off the words on the page. I know that's a little boring, but it'll be the better way to do it. So let's discuss price stabilization in a market traded asset. Price is stabilized when the number of buyers equals the amount of sellers. Put simply, if one adds a buy order to a stable market, the price necessarily goes up. And if you add a sell order, the price necessarily goes down. This is 100% mathematically required, regardless of personal sentiments. Mathematics drives the market. So this is there's a few people who get confused by this issue, which is frankly the problem is that so in blockchain, rather than the corporation spending money and allocating resources, it's the blockchain that spends money automatically basis as it was programmed. Now all blockchains have to buy a common good, and one of these common goods is the hash power bonus security. Alright. And the more you spend on this common good, or the more that you spend, then the more sell orders, the more sell orders that are put into the market. So, anyways, does that go down? Hold on just a second. Okay, yeah, moving on. All right, there we go. So, got that understood? Okay, let's begin. First question you must solve: how much hash security is necessary to purchase and protect a blockchain? Alright, let me look at the screen there. This is a little bit better. Okay, yeah. Without going into detail, hash security does nothing to speed or send transactions along. It is purchased and disregarded immediately after use. The only purpose of purchasing hash security is to prevent a 51% attack within that very moment. Blockchains of 20 million annual expenditures or less have been known to be attacked, and there's no history of a blockchain spending more than 20 million annually to have been attacked. Do you know about that, Patrick? Is that about right?
That's right. What we're talking about is how much do we need to spend on security, and how much are we overspending on security? So the real question is, we're not talking about how much do we need. We're talking about how much overspending Ethereum is doing on security. It's like a comparative statement of the United States government spending $200 billion
it's very close.
Spending $200 billion, we have 30-something aircraft carriers, and the closest next country with an aircraft carrier is China with 2. Do you think that's reasonable? We have 30, they have 2.
Yeah,
is it reasonable? Well, it's not. It's reasonable when you're talking about country security, but when you're talking about blockchain security,
you're maybe going crazy.
Do we need to overspend that much?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, so then I go down here and I say, below I'll list the values of blockchain security on an annual basis. Compare the space of what you might consider to be the minimum desirable level for ETH blockchain security. So in terms of an annual basis, Litecoin spends 240 million, Dash spends 132 million, Ethereum in 2016 spent 106 million, all the rest spend less than 100, most of them spend about 12 million. However, you're known to be at risk if it's around 20 million. So I just threw out the number here, 500 million, but you can, a lot of people say it should be more like 200 million or something like that. And then if you throw out a number of 200 million, you got to make it a range, so it's 200 to 400 million. So you kind of want to set your minimum number in this situation, but I'll say 500 million, which is twice that of Litecoin.
Yeah.
Lastly, while you may find it perturbing, it is an important part of the discussion in order to eliminate some forms of delusional thinking. What will Ethereum be worth in 2025? What do you want to guess Ethereum will be worth in 2025?
2025. And again, we have to caveat with this. It's going to be when we'll caveat this with being the top 2 cryptocurrencies, which it is now.
Yeah.
So we'll just say that. So what will be worth? We'll say Bitcoin should be worth about 10 grand per coin.
Maybe.
So we're saying with that 10 to 1, we're going to say Ethereum's worth 1,000. So How many coins do we have in circulation? I mean, you have to do a quick calculation.
Oh, I know. You're right.
I'm saying 1,000 times whatever.
You want to say $25,000?
What?
I'm just making up numbers.
Each coin's worth?
Yeah, each crypto.
Each crypto coin, and that's 2020. So I'd say let's double that. Let's say 3,000.
3,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Each Ethereum's worth about $3,000.
Okay, so
quite a bit, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the point I'm making here, okay, you did about perfect. So, using dollar values, what percent you suggest? The percentage you suggest, which should be paid to hash security in 2025, comes out to 0.2%.
Yeah.
0.2%, and right now they're spending 11.6%.
Correct. And so what Keller's trying to state here is there is a security level to say how much money needs to be spent to overtake the blockchain, basically. So, per year is what it's kind of security level.
Yeah.
Per year.
Yeah, that's per year. That's right.
To overtake the blockchain, basically, to make someone to take over the blockchain, basically, is how it goes.
Okay,
we're not going into technical details.
Well, some of it.
You can.
Well, okay. So effectively, this can be viewed as an income tax, or as a percent of price deflation, or availability, or share inflation.
Correct.
Which you would rather decide. So, which would you rather decide in 2025 how much to pay in real dollars, or to commit to a percent of worth forever in 2017? You'd rather wait till 2025.
Yeah, but what he's saying is he's arguing now.
Well, so in 2009, Bitcoin took a guess as to what the worth of cryptocurrency would be in 2017. Bitcoin was the first of its kind, and as many know, based on that, he decided to commit to paying a tax of 4%.
Yep.
Many suggest his 2009 guess is more accurate than the guesses made in 2017. I would argue otherwise. This 4% income tax has amounted to $1.6 billion for 2017, or about 8 times higher than any other modern competitor. This is how much Bitcoin spends. Thus, the market has concluded that all expenses above approximately $150 million have not been worthwhile. However, Bitcoin was a guess made in 2009. One final note, you may see that the price goes up, the percentage payout goes down to achieve a similar fixed dollar expense. So when you guessed that Ethereum would raise to $3,000, the percent payout went down from 11.6 to 0.18 to achieve the same amount. That last bit is surprisingly hard for some to understand. Under the Bitcoin system, your total payouts would come annually to $11 billion. So had you just said 4% of whatever it's worth in 2025, the payout would have come to $11 billion rather than the $200 million that everybody else is paying today, or 2,000% more. Thus, any coin in 2025 would have an immediate advantage equal to the amount of waste by truing the cost. Okay, moving on. Darn it, one more thing. This is only truly applicable to Bitcoin and Ethereum. In addition to millions of dollars in expenses above, there is an additional expense, which is transaction fees. For Bitcoin, this is approximately $4 million monthly or $48 million annually, and for Ethereum, it's about half, or $2 million monthly or $24 annually. And the primary reason that I included this is to remind the reader the above is always in addition to these fees. Thus, if Ethereum and Bitcoin offered 0% of the market cap towards security, it will still hold values of $48 million and $24 million, respectively. This will go into effect for Bitcoin in 2024, and this is the ideal intent of any blockchain. Bitcoin will pay 0% of the market cap, which is to say that 0% of the market cap is devoted to security, while transaction fees support security. Almost done. And the primary reason for this is that transaction fees are negotiated in today's dollars in worth, while future market cap is in relation to the cost of computing. It's nearly impossible to surmise. Unfortunately, you must take a guess, however, and Bitcoin took a guess at 4% of whatever the market cap will be in 2017 and 2009.
All right. So what we're talking about here, this is the bottom line of what we're talking about. How much do we need to pay for security?
Yeah.
And we view Ethereum as paying too much.
Too much.
Almost 12%.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Bitcoin pays at 4%. and we consider Bitcoin to be Ethereum's closest competitor.
Yeah.
Maybe you're an Ethereum Classic person. Ha 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 ha. You think that's a competitor?
Yeah.
We're not going there. We're just talking about Ethereum versus Bitcoin versus a couple other competitors, Litecoins, and we're talking about security reasons. You need to reach a certain threshold to keep security. Beyond that, it was a guess. When Ethereum goes up in value, that guess becomes more and more costly. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if Ethereum goes up to $1,000, that guess that you made becomes very, very more costly.
That's the perfect point.
Well, that's what we're talking about here.
Effectively controls your price.
Correct. And
it effectively controls your price.
And that's what we're talking about. I know Keller read a few sentences there and may have gone over a little bit over your head, so we're gonna bog it down real quick.
Yeah, let's bog it down.
The bogging down point is this.
Right.
Security cost. We think Ethereum's paying too much for security.
Bottom line,
we can look at the numbers.
Yeah.
We can look at the graphs. If you keep security this high, the Ethereum price cannot reach a higher price per Ethereum. Do you know why? Because we're going to pay too much in cost. It's the same with anything. We have an overhead cost. We have a variable cost. We sell goods.
Right.
The variable cost.
It's transaction
fee. If overhead cost too much.
Right.
From bottom line saying, we own a shop in downtown Knoxville, and the overhead costs us 12 or 13%, and then all our variable costs and our transaction costs add up, and then the actual cost of the product, we don't make any money.
Yeah.
So we're going to lower. What do you try to lower? Your overhead costs.
Right.
You always try to do that.
You
in
lower
business.
Because
you can always control that.
I brought up the idea of lowering overhead, and they said I was making up terms.
Yeah, it's
they said they accused me.
Honestly, they are witchcraft. It's called overhead cost. It means a fixed cost that we can change.
That doesn't benefit the end user.
Yeah, that we can change. Overhead costs can change.
Right.
Variable costs usually can't change because variable costs.
Transaction fees.
Well, which in this case is transaction fees, but variable costs for, let's just say we own a corn shop. We have a corn shop. We pay $1,000 to own the corn shop. We can't control what the price of corn is every year. That's a variable cost. But we can control how much we're going to pay for a corn shop. We can control how much we're going to pay our employees.
Right.
And that's the same with Ethereum. They are controlling how much they pay for security.
Okay, so
that's an overhead cost.
Yeah. So here I'll go on to point number 2. This is some good shit. Fucking awesome, dude. All right, second point. Let's discuss fair value of security. There are 3 things to consider in this context. Systems are attacked at times of least security, not most. In the market, there are many players, 99% of which have a history in fallibility in security, and payments of defense contractors should not grossly exceed known or theorized abilities of attack. So that actually was relevant for this discussion, but there you go. Just keep that in mind. And then now for demands and markets, this part is going to be kind of fun. I think I liked it. All right. Step 2, demands and markets. Is it possible to understand or predict demand? Fortunately, under certain circumstances, it is possible to know with 100% certainty the total rate of demand. For example, May 27th, 2017, the value of Ethereum reached $200. And on July 14th, 2017, the value of Ethereum reached $200. This is going to be good stuff. Thus, over the 47-day period, we know with 100% certainty there was no net change of demand because Ethereum price went from 200 to 200. Would you agree with that statement? Price goes from 200 to 200.
Yeah. What we're talking about here is we're doing some assumptions that says that if the price stays the same, there really isn't
a change in demand.
A change in demand because we consider Ethereum to be a demand supply currency at this point.
It's a scarcity.
I mean, we don't say there is intrinsic value for us. We believe that intrinsic value is nice, but in reality, on the marketplace, it is a supply and demand currency.
Yeah.
And that's what we truly believe, that if supply goes up, price drops. If demand goes up, price goes up. And people should agree logically that that's what Ethereum is.
Yes.
It's not on a news article that says Ethereum is the greatest shit ever.
No, it's not.
It's not. It is a supply and demand currency that has a computer program, and we've all discussed this, that on GDEX, on Kraken, on other situations, they have a computer program that says this is the price considering supply and demand.
Yeah.
They've even stated that, and that's why we had a crash drop to 10 cents because the supply went up so much that the computer program kept pricing it out to demand that it went down to 10 cents. And that's unrealistic. that Ethereum is at a 10 cent price at any point now. So we know it is a supply and demand driven currency.
Oh, I fully agree. All right, I'm going to go on to the next. So over 47-day period, we know with 100% certainty there's no net change in demand, which is to say over the course of that time period, the amount of buyers and sellers equalized at 200. Put another way, the demand to buy and the demand to sell was exactly 200 on May 27th and July 14th, which would indicate there's no net increase in demand. However, that is only half the puzzle. There is an expense occurred during that time, which was 100% paid. This money was taken from new investors and burnt to pay for blockchain security. This amount of money amounted to $328 million was spent over this 47-day period. Okay, or a daily burn of $7 million. In other words, we know with certainty the daily demand during that time was $7 million, which netted to zero after security allocations. If we phrase this in terms of persons, with average expenditures of $5,000, we can say new investors of $5,000 during this time period averaged exactly 1,396 people, or monthly persons of 41,872, or $209 million, because it's a 47-day period, but if you take it down to 30 days to standardize it, 209 million is the demand for new Ethereum every month by new investors, which represents the necessary new demand to create 0% net change during the time as it went from 200, 420 to 200 price points. Certain business persons might be asking why the price is relevant. It is relevant because, as demonstrated on the Security and Tax tab, Ethereum expenses are set to increase linearly with price. Thus, if the price doubles, Ethereum must pay double for the same items it purchased just a month prior. As you'll see, this effectively creates a price limitation as we excessively waste natural limits, as excessive waste naturally limits an asset's worth. Ethereum is programmed to waste more money the more one wants to pay, effectively reducing the price. However, to recap, new investors supplied $209 million. Ethereum spent $209 million to create a zero change in demand.
All right, so what we're talking about again is overspending for security. This is our main point. If $200 million come in, as the math states,
yeah,
200 million will come in. Yeah. 200 million might be spent on security reasons, and that's what we're talking about. Is as the more money comes in, the price, the fixed costs, the fixed costs we're talking about, overhead costs may equal, as they rise, may equal the same cost, and then you have no demand, which makes Ethereum stable at its price.
At 200.
But it can't go up, and that's what we're talking about. New investors come in,
put perfectly,
but the cost keeps going up. But more money comes in, but the cost is still detracting. So we're at a 0 or a zero level, where we're negatively charged, as they would say.
Yeah,
so
that's
we're just balanced as we are.
That's
right?
perfect. That's perfectly put. So
and that's what we're talking about here. And we've talked. Keller actually came up with all this, and we're talking to Vitalik about lowering that security cost to meet security demand.
Right.
We need to meet security demand, but we also need to help investors lower security costs.
Right.
So where those two meet is where we want to be.
Exactly. That's
and
exactly
we believe
it.
that it's at 4%.
I'm actually saying even 2%.
Yeah, Keller likes to go 2%.
You gotta beat Bitcoin.
I'm a more 4%er.
You're a 4%er.
I'm a 4%er.
Match the Bitcoin.
Keller, yes, I'm a very match Bitcoin person. Keller's a very let's beat the fuck out of Bitcoin. I'm very and caveat. I have some Bitcoin sometimes.
And I don't have any Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin, but
Bitcoin's good.
I respect it. I respect the coin.
So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to talk to them and lowering the security costs. And we appreciate you watching us today.
Wait.
No, we're not going to keep
going. We're going to keep going. Okay. Well,
We appreciate the synopsis. You can read the rest of the paper as you would like to, because it's on Stemmet. Go ahead, tell where it's at.
Yeah, it'll be on Stemmet here. I'll show you just a few little other things over here. This is just about mining. It's not really relevant. Here's the 51% attack stuff for anybody who's curious about just reading it on here. I'll just let you deal with it as you see fit. Oh gosh, it is a lot. Let me tell you what. Man, I might have got a little too excited in my writing. Yeah. But now
it's called self-masturbation.
It's called self-masturbation. But let's do chart analysis just a second. So these are the charts that work. And so if you put in a stable level of demand, so in this situation I'll just put $60,000. And if you say 60,000 people, so this is 50% more people than were interested in the most popular month of Ethereum. So if you say that, then at 5 ETH, the price point stabilizes around $320 or $250, right around there. And then 3 ETH, which we're going to, it'll stabilize around $470, somewhere between $350 and $700, somewhere between $350 and $700, but probably closer to $450, something like that. Well, this is a real with super high demand. Now, if it goes to 1 ETH, like I recommend, then it'll stabilize around $1,000 over here, and then up to $2,000 if demand gets kicker. Now, this is the rolling stable demand, which is the main thing that I'm promoting with ETH right now, which I really love. And the thing that you want to see about this chart versus the other charts is here you see how the expense becomes astronomical as the price goes up, and this is for something that does not provide any additional benefit to the blockchain. With my
this is like the banking system.
With my system, as the price goes up, the expense goes down actually, and as a percentage, but the fixed cost, which is over here, stays roughly the same. So here's the fixed cost. This is $40 million, and this is, let's just say 60 million. So I'm still spending between 40 and 60 million, or 500 million to $1 billion a year. People like you to spend $1 billion a year, and this is here where I'm spending more like $1 billion at these extraordinary prices, like $10,000 and stuff. And then if you do something like this, you'll create less than 1% inflation. And here's the historical data. This is, in the history of Ethereum, it only spent over $50 million for a total of 4 months so far, April through July. And so I'm suggesting spending no less than roughly 50 million here on out. And you can do that with only 1 ETH. Which takes significant burden off of new investor recruitment, saves some more money, and if you take it down to 1 ETH, then you can be at 2% inflation, the lowest thing on the planet, half a Bitcoin. Some wonderful things would be HittyGB. And the way that my little system looks at the rolling, and you can also do a 20% reduction monthly, which equivalently comes out to about the same, but I suggest doing 1 ETH, 1 ETH, 1 ETH, half an ETH after 3 months, and then taking it down to a quarter of an ETH, holding that, and then doing it twice a year, starting July 1st. Just cutting it in half twice a year, beginning that, and July 1st, July would go down to 1/8 of an ETH. So there you go. That's pretty much the entirety of the video, and I'll show one more thing. Let's say if we put in demand as lower demand, you'll see on this little, I know we gotta go just a few more minutes and then I'll bounce out. You'll see it.
Fine, dude, chill.
You'll see on this little thing that the the forced buy is $60 million a month, even with this lower demand.
Yeah.
And even with that lower demand, the expenditure is quite high.
Keeps talking about is this whole graph is based on supply and demand, and almost all these computer systems on Kraken, Bitrex, what's the other one? Defix,
Pollux, GDAX, yeah.
We're talking about GDAX. They all run on supply and demand.
Yeah, systems.
So what we're talking about is supply and demand. So when we talk about this system and why it's going to range up and down, we're basing it on supply and demand. GDEX, supply and demand. Bitcoin, supply and demand. We're talking about systems that base themselves on these. We're not talking about social influences, which can happen. We're talking about just reasonable, where they can stabilize at. Anybody can predict it's going to go to 1,000, 10,000. That can happen.
Yeah, you can just say random words.
It can always go up. But we're talking about stable. We're talking about stable
demand. Stable demand.
For what we're talking about when we say it. In the graph, you can see that with too much supply or too much demand, it can go down a lot.
Right.
It can go up a lot.
Well, if the expenses change. Yeah.
I mean, that's the base of everything in buying and selling of this. But we're telling you, if it goes to this certain price, you should sell.
Yes.
If it goes to this certain price, you should buy. Because we know the stable point, the median.
Right, we know the stable point,
We know the median. So if you see a high point, sell. If you see a low point, buy. And that's what we're talking about. And that's how we feel because of security reasons, because of overhead costs, is basically what we're telling you. It's not a hard theory. It seems a little bit more intact than it is.
Yeah.
But it's basically we're saying an overhead cost that we're paying too much in Ethereum, and therefore our stable point's at this point. If we go to a lower overhead cost, our stable point will be here. If we go to a lower stable point, it will be here. And that's what the understandable is. The variable that we don't know about is maybe more people want to buy Ethereum than we think.
Right, yeah, maybe. Demand changes.
Demand changes. Maybe more people like Ethereum. Maybe more businesses do. And that can always drive it up or drive it down, as we say. But we're talking about as a stable environment as it is now, as we get more and more investors. We're still giving sound advice that if there's an overhead cost that we can cut down, we're going to make more money. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah,
everybody knows that.
If there's an overhead cost you can cut down, you're going to make more money.
Exactly. And Amazon took advantage of that when they opened an online market without tax.
So what
they did
that's awesome.
They took
they just get rid of tax.
Which they did until the government said, "Hey, we're going to tax online auctions, online sales."
Right, and now
but they've already made multi-millions of dollars by saving themselves 8 or 9 cents on every sale, 20 cents, 30 cents, $1. And that's what we're talking about. It's millions of dollars when you have that many transactions. So that's basically what we're talking about. But hey, thank you. Check out Keller Stimmet. Tell them about it on Stimmet.
Yeah, check it out on Stimmet, my man.
And it's just below the account. You can check it in the comments. If you have anything stated below, let us know what you think. We'd like to either talk to people online, via Skype, who has other information, but we appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, good stuff. Let me get this closed out.